Welcome to episode number 19 of the Dugout Report. I am here with Michael Duarte, talking Dodgers baseball, and I'm interested to hear what his thoughts are on how they have been doing and everything Dodgers. So welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Alex. Yeah, long time no talk. And here we are. Seems like in the blink of an eye, baseball is back and we're already, 10, 11 games through the season.
So my first question is, what were your initial thoughts on the Dodgers game, Dodgers series against San Francisco?
I think that was a pretty good series for them. Obviously, it was an amazing series for Max Muncy, who had been struggling entering that season. Fun fact for you, Alex. Max Money. He should be called Max Money because he's straight cash. But anyways, Max Muncy went into that series, I think, with just one RBI on the season. And after having 4 home runs and 12 RBI, he now is tied for the lead in the National League with 13 RBIs. So that's how great of a series he had. He also now leads the team with 5 home runs. Like I said, 4 of them coming at Oracle Park there in just a 2-day, 3-day span. So overall good. They win the series against their rivals. They're going to have to keep winning series here. They obviously dropped 3 or 4 to the Diamondbacks, who are playing very well right now. They have a lot of speed on that team. I like the way they kind of built that team when they're in a down market, a low market, and people don't really expect a lot from them. I like how they built it around speed and defense and pitching, especially hard throwing pitching out of the bullpen. They got relievers who can come out of that pen, throw 100 miles per hour. So that's pretty good. We'll just see if they hold up. So that's what I would say about that series with the Giants. Obviously, the season not going as well as Dodger fans would hope, or at least as much as they've been accustomed to here the last 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this upcoming series against the Cubs?
Yeah, the Cubs are an interesting, intriguing team to me. I think they're on the come up. If the Chicago Cubs were a stock, you'd want to buy stock in them and hold on to it for a few years, because I think, it could be worth higher value in the long run. I think the Brewers right now are the Brewers and the Cardinals are the cream of the NL Central. So I don't really think the Cubs are expected to make like a deep postseason run. It's going to be Dodgers fans' opportunity to see Cody Bellinger, the 2019 MVP and the 2017 National League Rookie of the Year, a guy who's beloved here in Los Angeles, especially at Chavez Ravine. It's going to be their first opportunity to see him in a Chicago Cubs uniform. Yes, it's still blue, so it won't look too different, but he will still not be wearing a Dodgers uniform. He will not be coming out of the home dugout. He will be on the other side. And I think you're going to see a lot of love for Cody during this series here at Dodger Stadium, from the fans, standing ovations, hopefully a video tribute for a guy who helped them obviously win the World Series in the bubble in 2020. But it is going to be extremely odd to me to watch him go to the plate against Julio Urias, or Dustin May even, or somebody like that, who I think will be maybe at the back end of that series, guys that maybe he only faced on the minor league fields in practice, or in a simulated game situation. Now he's going to be going up against these guys who are his friends when it all counts and when it all matters. So that to me is the biggest thing, is the reunion with Cody Bellinger here at Dodger Stadium, playing for another team for the first time.
My next question is, what are your thoughts on the Mets series next week?
Yeah, looking ahead. Now, this is funny because when the Mets came to Dodger Stadium last season, that was a series towards the end of the year, and it looked and appeared to be a series to most people that potentially had playoff implications. I know when the Mets came to Dodger Stadium, like I said, around August, September of last year, most people expected that this could be potentially a future NLCS matchup, or maybe even an NLDS matchup, depending on where those teams fall. From that series last season, The Mets obviously fell off a cliff. The Braves went high, rose up, won the division. The Mets were forced to play that 3-game wild card series, which they ultimately lost to the Padres. And then the Dodgers play the Padres and get beat by the Padres. But the reason why I bring that up to you, Alex, is because I think this Met series is going to be something very similar. Now, right now, as we're recording this podcast, both teams are 7-6. I think fans wanted and believe that they should be much higher. I know the Mets have the highest payroll in baseball this year at close to $500 million when it's going to be all said and done. Obviously, they have the reunion between Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, guys who started their career with the Tigers. I remember back in those World Series when they played the Giants, and I don't think they ever won a World Series, but man, those rotations were very good in Detroit with Justin Verlander 1 and Max Scherzer 1B in those situations. So they're back together in the Big Apple. But they come in here both in second place, both losing to some teams ahead of them. We'll see what happens. Maybe they're in first place by the time they play. And obviously, it's an early series this year, so it's not like the standings really matter. But these are two teams that have high payrolls. They're perennially pretty good teams, very deep, lots of star power. So I'm looking forward to that Mets-Dodgers series just for all the star power involved. And also, the Mets roster a little bit reconstructed, I guess you could say. I mean, not completely reconstructed. Maybe if they had added Carlos Correa, they'd be very much reconstructed. But we're looking at a Mets roster, that added some interesting names to it in the offseason. One guy that I like, obviously Starling Marte is there now. Tommy Pham is there now. One guy I like, former Dodger Tim LaCastro. He's got lots of speed. He's from the New York area. He's a guy I like. Obviously, you're going to have Francisco Lindor. That's star power. The polar bear, Pete Alonso. And then on the Dodgers side, obviously, you have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. So Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias, a lot of star power for that series. So I think it's a shame that series is coming so early in the season in April, because I think when we get into like 100 and 120 games into the marathon that is the MLB season, I think by the time we get there, the Mets and Dodgers will probably be in first, in their division or definitely playoff teams. And then it'll be a much better measuring stick than say, 12, 13 games in the season than it's going to be when they come here early next week.
What were your thoughts on Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, and Mookie Betts' performances in the past couple of series?
I spoke to Mookie Betts, or I was in a scrum with Mookie Betts here before that Giants series, and we were asking, what do you think to the start of your season? And Mookie Betts told me, Alex, that he is playing like trash. Those were his words, that he is playing like trash. I don't think that's fair. He's still batting .271. He's got 11 walks on the year, which is good for second best behind Miguel Vargas, a rookie who's Mr. Walk right now. But I think he's doing pretty good. I think what we're missing from Mookie Betts right now is the home run power. I mean, he only has 2 home runs this season, and he had a lot more than that last year. So that's probably why he thinks it's trash. But I think he's doing okay. Freddie Freeman also not with the power this year, but still just crushing the ball. Freddie Freeman is a professional hitter. That guy can hit the ball anywhere, anytime. He can go oppo field. He can pull the ball. He can hit for power. He can hit soft. He's just a great professional hitter. And the most indicative of that, Alex, is he had a 15-pitch walk against Tyler Rogers of the San Francisco Giants in that third game of the series, at a time, I might add, when the Dodgers were tied or losing the game. And every single player I interviewed after the game, including manager Dave Roberts and Clayton Kershaw, the starting pitcher in that game, told me that at-bat was the turning point in the game, that they rallied and ended up winning that game big because of it. And Dave Roberts said it was the best at-bat of the season for the Dodgers. And that's crazy when the result was a walk. But a 15-pitch battle that Freddie Freeman ultimately wins by working that walk. So that's just the kind of professional hitter Freddie Freeman is. But, those guys, and Muncy, as you added to it, but we already talked about him. Those guys are some of the names and the star power that we know of right now with the Dodgers. So I'm sure for your listeners, Alex, they're familiar with those names. I want to talk to you about some names that I think are doing very well right now for the Dodgers early this season that people might not know those names. I'm talking guys like JD Martinez, right? a veteran guy, used to play for the Diamondbacks, used to play for the Boston Red Sox, famously killed the Dodgers in the 2018 World Series with the Red Sox. The Dodgers have been trying for years to get him. They tried to get him at the trade deadline last year. He's now a member of the Dodgers, and he's batting 280. He's hitting extra bases. He's got 9 RBIs on the season, 28 total bases, which leads the team. So I like JD Martinez in this lineup as a DH hitter. And then I got another guy for you who right now, 10, 12 games into the season might be the front runner for the NL Rookie of the Year, and that's James Outman. That's a guy that wasn't even supposed to make the opening day roster, Alex. Not only is he making the opening day roster, he's already had 38 at-bats. He's playing very well. He's batting 290 right now on the season, 26 total bases, working 9 walks. So he's showing patience at the plate for a rookie. This guy's a guy that people should look out for and watch. And here he's playing very, very well. In his debut, when he got called up to the big leagues last year, he hit a home run at Coors Field, very first pitch he ever saw. In his first at bat as a Dodger on opening day, he hit a home run. So this guy lives for the big moments, and he has great debuts. And then the final guy is a guy I briefly mentioned, and that's Miguel Vargas, a guy that the Dodgers are very high on. He's got great bat-to-ball speed, great hand-eye coordination. He's struggling a little bit to start the season, but the biggest thing is he's worked 13 walks. Now, this is a guy who during spring training, Alex, he was not allowed to swing the bat in spring training games for 6 consecutive games. He could just go to the plate and not swing. And he worked a lot of walks in spring training doing that. I think it helped his pitch recognition skills as far as the ball coming out of the pitcher's hands. And so far, it is equating onto the field because he, like I said, he leads the Dodgers in walks right now with 13. So him not swinging the bat for 6 days in spring training may turn out to be a blessing in disguise, because I think it's improved his pitch recognition. Now he's working a lot of walks. Even though he's struggling to start the season offensively outside of those walks, I think he's going to be a guy you're going to hear about a lot come June, July, August, the dog days of summer.
So what are your thoughts on the Pittsburgh series towards the end of the month?
Oh, God, now we're looking way ahead to the Pittsburgh Pirates here. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Pirates are a team that nobody expects to do anything this season. They just lost O'Neal Cruz, who I'm hearing now it might be longer than the 2 months that they thought with the broken leg. It's really a shame because that guy is dynamic. He's a guy that must see, and he brings eyes to Pittsburgh, which I think a lot of fans should get to see a guy like that play. And that's a guy, I might add, who's a former Dodger. He was drafted by the Dodgers. He was in the Dodgers farm system, and he was part of a trade where they sent him out to Pittsburgh. So, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, that was a guy that they sent out to Pittsburgh. So, I'm disappointed we're not going to see him later on this month. But I do think that the Dodgers, even though they struggled mightily against Pittsburgh last year, I think the Pirates are a team that they should beat up on this year, as far as what everyone's concerned.
And my last question is, what is your record prediction for the rest of the month?
For the rest of the month?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think overall, if we're going to be talking about the Dodgers, a lot of people, Alex, believe that this team is not as stacked as they've been in previous years. They're not the favorite to win the World Series like they've been in previous years. They don't have the star power and the names as they've had I mean, they still do, but not as much as in previous years where people would say that their lineup was like an all-star team. You know what I mean? They don't have that this year. And the biggest thing is they did not get that big off-season signing that they've had in previous years. We can go back to 2019's offseason and they go and get Mookie Betts, right? We can go to the 2020 offseason and they go and get Trevor Bauer, the reigning NL Cy Young winner. We go to 2021 and they go get Freddie Freeman and a former MVP. And so they just every year seemingly get the big fish, the big free agent. This year, I know for a fact that they were in on Jacob deGrom. They didn't get him. They talked about a guy like Carlos Correa. They didn't. They ultimately decided to pass on even trying to sign him because that was a guy that fans really don't like because he was on that 2017 Houston Astros team that was caught cheating. So fans really didn't want him to be here. And I think obviously now that we've seen with his medical records on that ankle, it was a good thing they didn't, pay the money that in the years that he wanted. I think both the Giants, Dodgers, and Mets are going to be grateful they didn't end up signing him, 5-6 years from now. So they didn't get those big names. I know they talked about maybe Dansby Swanson, but they didn't think he was worth the contract that the Cubs gave Dansby Swanson. And like we talked about, that's a guy they're going to see here coming up pretty soon. So all of those guys would have been a big signing, a big free agent star power name that the Dodgers are used to getting. They didn't get any of those guys this year. Instead, they made the decision with having to pay Trevor Bauer, close to $23 million his salary this year to not play for him, to cut him and waive him outright, that they would one way to show what they can do. And that's at least here for the first half of the season up until the All-Star break. So we're talking, like we just mentioned, guys like James Outman, guys like Miguel Vargas, pitchers like Ryan Pepio, Andre Jackson, Michael Grove. These are guys who are rookies who are getting an opportunity to play, to show what they can do at the big league level. And then the Dodgers realize that in order to complement those guys, they need to get some veterans who can teach these guys the ropes and teach them how to play the game, especially when you lose veterans like Justin Turner, like Cody Bellinger off of this team in the offseason. So they went out and got JD Martinez, David Peralta, some veterans in this league who can teach these young guys how to be a professional and how to play at the major league level. And that's what they did this year. So, long story short, I digress a little bit, Alex. I think we're going to see this month what we're going to see most of the season, which is not a dominant Dodger team that's winning at a 700% win clip and running away with the division and having 111 wins or something like that at the end of the year. I think this is a team that's going to be between like 90 and 95 wins when it's all said and done. They're going to be in a dogfight for the division with the Padres. Maybe the Giants or Diamondbacks can sneak in there too. They're going to be fighting for wild card spots, and they're going to be hovering above 500 to a little bit above 500. So I think if you're the Dodgers, if you can end the month above 500 and a few games above 500, that's a good start. I know they got Tony Gonsolin, a guy who was a great pitcher last year, an all-star. I think he won 16 games. He's been injured with an ankle injury. He's expected to be coming back soon. That should help shore up that starting pitching rotation. That's been a little suspect lately. So if you can have him back and he pitches and performs like he did last year as an all-star, then you're looking at a good, solid rotation with Julio Urias, a guy who was a Cy Young finalist last year, Dustin May, who appears to be back to his pre-Tommy John self from a couple of years ago, and is looking really nasty to start the year. It's 8 years ago, but it's still very, very good and very solid, third or fourth option. And then Tony Gonsolin can slot in there. And then you got some young guys that can hold it up, and we'll see if Noah Syndergaard, another veteran pitcher I mentioned that they signed in the offseason, can do something, can do okay. And then I think if the Dodgers can stay above 500, keep their head above water, still be in competition for the NL West, and still be in competition for the playoffs, I think you might see President of Baseball Operations Andrew Friedman make some moves at the deadline to get some frontline starting pitching. I'm looking at a guy like we talked about before we started recording this podcast with Nola in Philadelphia. Right now, Philadelphia is struggling. They're below 500. It's early, so it doesn't really matter. But if they are struggling by the All-Star break, Nola is a free agent at the end of the year. Maybe they decide to trade him at the deadline and let the Dodgers or another team sign him or acquire him as a short-term rental, because the Phillies can always re-sign him if they want him in the offseason, even if they trade him during the season. Another guy like Lucas Giolito on the White Sox, great pitcher. I know the White Sox have high hopes, but let's say the Twins Twins or Indians running away with the Central and the American League. Starting pitchers that are very good that could be available at the deadline. If teams are struggling, the Dodgers could go after and shore up. And I think shortstop might be a position of need from them. We'll see what happens with Miguel Rojas, but obviously they lost Gavin Lux before the season. So maybe they go out and try to acquire a shortstop too. So I think the Dodgers, for not just this month, but up until the All-Star break, the best thing for them is to try to stay above 500, still be in competition for that NL West, and then try to make some moves at the deadline if they think they can have a run at this again.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see what happens throughout the rest of the season and what they do once the trade deadline hits. And thank you so much for your time, and hopefully to have you on back on soon.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. Maybe we'll be having an NBA playoff podcast here coming up with all the teams going on. And then the last thing I'll say, I know we joked about it before when we jumped on this recording, but hopefully for you, the Sixers do make the NBA finals, but hopefully it's not 4 Philadelphia teams losing major championships in a 1-year span.
Yeah.
It's just been bad luck for the city of Philadelphia. Great that they have 3 professional teams in the championships playing for championships, but bad that they're all losing, including 2 on the same day. But yeah, we'll see if the Sixers can complete the quad right there.
Yeah, it'll be fun for sure.
Absolutely.